The Paradox of Power: Lessons from History's Most Controversial Political Philosopher. This exploration is brought to you by Imprint, the revolutionary visual learning platform that transforms complex subjects like social psychology into engaging, interactive experiences. Discover the intricate workings of human relationships and power dynamics through their expertly crafted courses. Start your journey with a 7-day free trial and save 20% on your annual premium membership through the link below. Throughout human history, we've grappled with fundamental questions about leadership, influence, and moral authority. What truly defines respect in society? Should leaders rely on affection or command through strength? How do we navigate the complex terrain between ethical ideals and practical results? These timeless dilemmas found their most provocative voice in one of history's most misunderstood thinkers, Niccolò Machiavelli. This Renaissance philosopher didn't just question conventional wisdom, he shattered it completely. His revolutionary approach to understanding power, morality, and human nature earned him recognition as both the father of modern political science and one of history's first true pragmatists. Whether you agree with his conclusions or find them deeply troubling, Machiavelli's insights offer invaluable lessons about human behavior, leadership, and the eternal struggle between idealism and reality. The making of a revolutionary mind, born into the vibrant, yet chaotic world of 15th century Florence, Machiavelli's worldview was shaped by extraordinary circumstances. His father, though an unsuccessful lawyer, possessed an extensive library filled with classical Greek texts. This early exposure to diverse philosophical traditions planted the seeds of intellectual curiosity that would later bloom into revolutionary thinking. More significantly, young Machiavelli witnessed firsthand the brutal realities of Renaissance politics. Florence, during this era, resembled a political earthquake zone. Constant upheavals, betrayals, assassinations, and power grabs created an atmosphere of perpetual instability. Religious leaders waged wars while preaching peace. Noble families orchestrated coups while publicly championing justice. The gap between proclaimed ideals and actual behavior was not just wide, it was a chasm. This environment proved to be Machiavelli's greatest teacher. He observed how Christian virtues like humility, forgiveness, and meekness, beautiful in theory, often led to political destruction in practice. Leaders who genuinely embraced these values frequently found themselves outmaneuvered by those who merely pretended to uphold them while employing ruthless tactics behind closed doors. Rise and fall of a political observer. At 25, Machiavelli's sharp intellect earned him an appointment to Florence's second chancery, launching a distinguished career in government service. By 29, he had risen to secretary, overseeing the Republic's foreign affairs and gaining unprecedented insight into the mechanics of power. For 14 years, he studied statecraft from the inside, watching alliances form and crumble, observing how fear and favor shaped political outcomes, and noting which leaders survived and which perished. This front-row seat to political theater would prove invaluable to his later philosophical work. However, fortune's wheel turned dramatically in 1512, when the powerful Medici family reclaimed control of Florence. Suspected of conspiracy against the new regime, Machiavelli endured torture and exile, experiences that would profoundly influence his understanding of power's darker aspects. The Prince, a manual for survival. During his forced retirement, Machiavelli penned his masterpiece, The Prince, around 1513. On the surface, this work appears to be a job application, a handbook for effective rulership, dedicated to Lorenzo de' Medici, perhaps hoping to secure his return to political life. But beneath this pragmatic purpose lies something far more revolutionary, a complete rejection of traditional moral frameworks in favor of pure effectiveness. Machiavelli argued that successful leadership requires abandoning conventional notions of goodness, virtue, and honor when they conflict with practical results. The book's central thesis is startling in its simplicity. A ruler's primary obligation is maintaining power and ensuring state stability, regardless of the moral cost. This approach was so radical that the Catholic Church banned the work for centuries. Cardinal Reginald Pole famously declared upon reading it, "I recognize the finger of Satan, its author is an enemy of the human race." Fear versus love. The psychology of control, one of Machiavelli's most famous insights, concerns the foundation of respect and authority. He posed a crucial question: is it better for a leader to be loved or feared? His answer revealed a sophisticated understanding of human psychology that remains relevant today. While acknowledging that ideally a leader would be both loved and feared, Machiavelli argued that if forced to choose, fear provides a more reliable foundation for authority. Love, he observed, is fickle and unpredictable. People's affections shift based on circumstances, emotions, and self-interest. Fear, however, creates consistent behavior because it appeals to humanity's most basic survival instincts. This doesn't mean Machiavelli advocated for tyrannical cruelty. Rather, he suggested that effective leaders must be willing to inspire fear when necessary, while avoiding hatred at all costs. The goal is respect, a complex emotion that combines admiration with healthy apprehension. The dark mirror of human nature. What makes Machiavelli's work so disturbing and so enduring is his unflinching examination of human nature. He refused to accept the comfortable fiction that people are fundamentally good. Instead, he observed that humans are primarily motivated by self-interest, fear, and desire for security. This perspective emerged from his observation of Christian ideals in practice. The story of Jesus Christ, while spiritually inspiring, represented from a purely political standpoint a tale of defeat. A leader who embraced complete humility, forgiveness, and self-sacrifice ended up betrayed, abandoned, and executed. For rulers seeking earthly success, this provided a cautionary tale rather than a model to emulate. Machiavelli noticed that merchants, statesmen, and leaders who genuinely embodied Christian virtues often lost to competitors who merely performed virtue while privately employing whatever tactics served their interests. This observation led to his controversial conclusion that moral flexibility, the willingness to be immoral when circumstances demanded it, was essential for effective leadership. Beyond the shock, understanding the deeper message. While The Prince appears to advocate for ruthless pragmatism, some scholars argue that Machiavelli's true intention was far more complex. Rather than providing a blueprint for tyranny, he may have been creating the first realistic political science, a clear-eyed analysis of how power actually functions, stripped of romantic idealization. From this perspective, The Prince serves as a warning rather than a manual. By exposing the tactics that ambitious individuals use to gain and maintain power, Machiavelli equipped readers to recognize and defend against such manipulation. His work becomes a form of intellectual self-defense for those who prefer not to engage in political games themselves. This interpretation gains credibility when we consider Machiavelli's famous observation: "How we live is so different from how we ought to live, that he who studies what ought to be done rather than what is done, will learn the way to his downfall rather than to his preservation." Practical wisdom for modern life. Even if we reject Machiavelli's more extreme conclusions, his insights offer valuable lessons for navigating contemporary life. Most significantly, he understood that absolute commitment to being nice or good in all situations can be counterproductive and even harmful. This doesn't mean abandoning moral principles, but rather recognizing that life involves complex trade-offs. Sometimes, protecting what we value most requires difficult choices. Parents must sometimes disappoint their children to teach important lessons. Leaders must sometimes make unpopular decisions to serve the greater good. Friends must sometimes deliver uncomfortable truths to help each other grow. Machiavelli also recognized that regardless of our own moral commitments, we will inevitably encounter people who operate from purely selfish motives. As he wrote, "Men are so simple of mind, and so much dominated by their immediate needs, that a deceitful man will always find plenty who are ready to be deceived." This reality makes it essential to develop what we might call strategic awareness, the ability to recognize manipulation, protect our interests, and respond appropriately to different types of people and situations. This doesn't require becoming manipulative ourselves, but it does require abandoning naive assumptions about others' motivations. The eternal tension, perhaps Machiavelli's greatest contribution, lies not in his specific recommendations, but in his identification of the fundamental tension between idealism and pragmatism. Every day, we face situations where our highest values conflict with practical necessities. How do we remain good people while effectively protecting ourselves and those we care about? The answer likely lies in finding balance, maintaining our commitment to ethical principles while developing the wisdom to recognize when flexibility is necessary. We can strive to create a better world while acknowledging the world as it currently exists. We can work toward justice while protecting ourselves from injustice. The unresolved legacy. Interestingly, Machiavelli himself never achieved the political success his theories supposedly enabled. After writing The Prince, he remained in exile, never regaining significant political influence. This fact adds another layer of complexity to interpreting his work. Perhaps his ideas weren't as practically effective as they claimed to be. Perhaps he didn't truly believe in implementing them himself. Or perhaps his circumstances simply never allowed him to test his theories. What we do know is that his work profoundly influenced subsequent thinkers, leaders, and artists. Philosophers like Jean-Jacques Rousseau and Friedrich Nietzsche grappled with his ideas. Political leaders throughout history have drawn inspiration from his strategic insights. Writers from Shakespeare to modern novelists have used his archetypal villain as a template for exploring the corruption of power. Evolution beyond Machiavelli. The most hopeful aspect of Machiavelli's legacy may be humanity's generally negative reaction to his more extreme ideas. Most people instinctively recoil from purely cynical approaches to human relationships and leadership. This suggests an innate moral compass that guides us toward cooperation, trust, and mutual benefit rather than pure self-interest. As Machiavelli himself wrote, "A man who is used to acting in one way never changes. He must come to ruin when the times, in changing, no longer are in harmony with his ways." Perhaps this observation applies to his own philosophy. The Renaissance world that shaped his thinking was uniquely brutal and chaotic. Modern society, while far from perfect, offers more opportunities for ethical leadership and cooperative success. Toward integrated wisdom, the ultimate lesson from studying Machiavelli may be the importance of psychological sophistication, understanding both our own motivations and those of others. This requires studying human nature, social dynamics, and the complex factors that drive individual and group behavior. This is where modern resources become invaluable. Imprint's course on interpersonal dynamics, the psychology of human relationships, taught by neuroscientist and Harvard psychology instructor Olivia Kang, offers exactly this kind of sophisticated understanding. Through beautiful visual presentations and interactive learning methods, the course explores everything from evolutionary origins of social behavior to practical applications for modern relationship management. Unlike mindless social media scrolling, engaging with educational content that deepens your understanding of human psychology provides genuine value. It helps you become both more effective and more ethical in your interactions with others, achieving the balance that perhaps even Machiavelli would appreciate. The course covers 90 days of comprehensive material, from evolutionary psychology to conflict resolution, decision-making, and leadership development. With over 30,000 five-star reviews and recognition as both Google's App of the Year and Apple's Essential Education app, Imprint represents a powerful tool for personal development. Transform idle moments into opportunities for growth. Use the link in the description to start your 7-day free trial and receive 20% off your annual premium membership. The continuing conversation. Ultimately, Machiavelli's greatest gift may be forcing us to confront uncomfortable questions about power, morality, and human nature. While we might reject his conclusions, we cannot ignore the dilemmas he identified. How do we remain good people in a complex world? How do we protect what matters most while maintaining our integrity? How do we lead effectively without losing our souls? These questions have no easy answers, but wrestling with them makes us more thoughtful, more strategic, and ultimately, more human. In our ongoing effort to paint the portrait of humanity, we each hold a brush. Whether we create something beautiful or something dark depends on the choices we make every day. Thank you for joining this exploration of one of history's most provocative thinkers. Until our next intellectual journey together, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep striving to be both good and wise in an endlessly complex world.